Hi, so today we're going to make a leaf pot holder, but I thought I would start out by talking about these little things. These are fascinators that you can clip onto a present, or you can wear them in your hair, or you can clip them on a lapel, and they're just a fun kind of girly thing. So that's going to be the last gift project tutorial, and that's going to come out, I hope, right away. And then I'm going to finish up the wall hanging that is almost finished. It needs a sleeve and some embellishments, and so that's what's coming. But for today, I'm going to make a leaf pot holder, and I showed it in the chili pepper video, and someone asked about it, and I thought, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. It's not the most practical thing, and the more detailed you shape and stitch your leaf, maybe the less likely people are to use it. It's cute though, and it's something that would look cute hanging in somebody's kitchen, especially if they, like the color green or have any kind of a nature theme going on in their kitchen. And so basically this is going to be the front of my pot holder. This will be my hanger. This will be the underside. So it's going to go like this when it's done. This side will actually have this hole cut in it. And so this is the front of the pot holder. Layering this is a little bit pesky. I've noticed that of all the things I've ever made, this is the easiest one, along with the placemat actually, to cut your pieces accidentally so they don't mirror each other. One of the solutions for that is to do batik, because batik fabric is almost always good on both sides. And then the inside layers of this, I usually did with muslin. This would be white and this would be white. But today what I've done is used what I consider to be bad fabrics. And so this is the front, and it gets, like all my pot holders, a top layer, a layer of cotton, the Insul-bright, and another layer of cotton. And if you have a strong feeling about how this is layered, go ahead and layer it the way that you think it should be. I find that this works well, and it doesn't slip around a lot when you're working on it. It minimizes the amount that this inner layer slips, in my opinion. And so I'm going to do it this way. This one, when it's finished, we want it to look like this. And to do that, we're going to layer it like this. So we're going to stitch around here, and then we're going to cut out the center and cut into the corners. We're going to stitch around twice actually, and then we're going to turn that through and press it, and then stitch around the opening, and that's going to give us our little opening. The first thing that I'm going to do is quilt this side, and I want my quilting to show quite a bit. If you're more of a beginner at free motioning, you'll want to do the same color thread probably, but I'm going to do contrasting. And I'm going to come on here and make a vein, and I'm going to have it go kind of up. Now if you really wanted, you could spray base this, you could stitch around the outside to control this. And so I'm going to stitch this veining. If I really wanted to make this into an artistic pot holder, I could paint in here with yellow gold paint, and it would be pretty fabulous. And I think at that point you'd be pretty sure that nobody would actually use it, that it would get hung up for decoration. But for right now, I'm just going to do some hopefully fairly tight meander quilting in these areas. So there's my leaf. Probably you either like it or you don't. Okay, so I'm going to mark this with this kind of marker that disappears with water, and it's not going to even show, so that's fine. And you know, I'm feeling like this hole is a tiny bit smaller than I want it to be, and so I'm actually just going to purposely sew outside my line. And what I'm going to do is go around twice, trying to go right over the first stitching, and that'll reinforce the areas where I have to clip over to these corners. So this is actually a pretty big hole, and I'm going to cut it out. I'm just going to get started in the center, and then I'm going to cut it out pretty close, maybe a little more than 3/16, and I'm going to clip right pretty close to in those corners. So then this one side will go through to the other side. Okay, so to press this, what I want to do is have this side kind of cover the edge that curves around this seam. And if that were white, you know, I would do everything I could to minimize how much that white shows. With this, it doesn't actually matter. It's pretty inconsequential. Okay, so this is my edger foot, and I pushed my needle all the way over to the left-hand side, and I'm just gonna top stitch around this at about a 2. And you know, this is gonna be fine, really, no matter what I do, unless it's just ridiculously awful. Now your foot actually needs to be lifted above this, and then you have to look down in there and see where you are once you pass the corner. You could do the tiny stitches here, but it doesn't show that much here, so I don't bother. I might decide after doing this a few times, I might decide to do it instead with this foot and have the stitching go at that length. And so, you know, you just, when you want your construction to be beautiful, in my opinion, you either go slow and pay attention and be willing to pull stuff out if you decide after you start something that you're not going to like the way it goes, or you make them for gifts one Christmas and give them away to friends who will cherish them, and you get in the practice of just noticing what's happening, and then stuff just gets better every time. All I'm going to do is fold my edges in so that they meet in the center, essentially, more or less. I'm going to turn my steam down a little. Try to not steam yourself. And I wouldn't work this odd way from one side normally, but I struggle with shooting stuff at the iron because I'm always in the way and end up showing my belly. And so I'm just going to press this. While my edge foot is in there, it's a really good time to just sew this. I've usually sewn this in like this, but it occurs to me that this might look kind of nice like this. And yeah, I like it like this with the stitching side to be the most prevalent. And so that's what we want to have right side to our finished part, so that when it turns out, it is here. And I just think it's nice if it lines up with your veining, but it doesn't need to. But I'm going to go ahead and just pin that there so that it won't wander around on me. It will be a little harder to keep these ends mated the way that you want, doing it this way, but even if it wanders a little bit apart, even if I stitched up to here, I think it would still be acceptable. So I'm just going to try that. as far as this goes, you know, you could just follow this. That's one way to do it. I've certainly made a lot like that. I think it might be a little more fun to try to put a little bit of art into this. And so I'm actually going to draw this line here, and I'm going to move this thing I pinned approximately under that area. And because what I'm going to try to do is shape my leaf. I'm going to try to get a little bit fancy with this one. You know, you want to be careful that, because like here you don't go out as far as, and you want to make sure that you've stitched a good 3/16 past that area. And this can kind of slip on you, so you want to be sure. And I think, let's see. So now I'm going to stitch around this, small stitches. I'm just going to start anywhere, and I'm going to make sure I overlap by a couple inches when I come around. I'm getting a little bit of puckering here, but because it's going to be inside the potholder, it's not that big a deal. This is very handy right now, though, to minimize that. Because this is now double stitched, I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing short. I might leave it long if I hadn't done that second stitching. And I'm going to get to about 3/16 here. I definitely don't want to go under an 1/8. In these situations, I always want to have my quilted side behind and my one layer up front, so that if I angle, I don't accidentally cut too close on this. I can still do it, but hopefully I won't, and then I won't have to re-stitch that area in a little bit to make sure it won't pull out in the wash. So then I'm going to turn this, and you know, if you push your fingers into the edges, you can get it pretty good. This point is probably the hardest part, and I'm going to probably use a stick in there. All right. So, I'm going to try to steam this. Steam it really well. All I'm going to do is top stitch this, and I'm going to kick my needle over. I want to go fairly near to the edge. Here it is finished. I don't really like the way I did this. I probably would never do it this way again, but it was worth trying. Again, you probably either like it or you don't. And like I say, it's sort of a silly little thing. You know, it's really intended to look cute hanging in someone's kitchen. Thanks for asking, Diana. It's more about the philosophy and the way that we work through the different tendencies our materials have to find interesting, cool ways to make things that nobody's done before, possibly because they didn't give themselves permission to try anything.